The dungeon has been raided, the monsters have been slain, and the treasure is all yours. That can only mean one thing. It's time for the after party at the Red Dragon Inn, the long-running, rambunctious card game from Slugfest Games that dares to ask the question, how will your adventuring party celebrate after a quest well done? Choose a character, then drink, gamble, and roughhouse the night away as you attempt to be the last one standing in the rowdiest bar this side of the adventure is night. Club, the last one awake and still with coins in their pocket wins, so be sure to keep an eye on your money, your fortitude, and those delicious flagons of ale. And don't forget to tip your servers, you filthy animals. Head on over to slugfestgames.com/RDI to learn more and snag your seat at the Red Dragon Inn today.
Hello, welcome to the Windbreakers podcast. I'm Yahtzee, and I'm joined by Frost and Marty as always.
Hello.
Hello. And this week we're talking about what is the line between a game and an experience masquerading as one, which, as you could probably tell from the thumbnail, came about from us having played Hellblade 2 recently, which is certainly less on the game side of things, if you ask me.
Pretty against the whole tone of this podcast by you saying an experience masquerading as one. Already getting off on a bad foot.
I thought Yachts would be more of the centralized one for this one. I said let's start cynical and work our way up. No one ever calls good games an experience. They just call them good games.
No, quite.
So that's as rotten as it's going to get. Let's work our way up then, shall we?
I think it's fair to say that games like Hellblade 2 certainly tend to polarize the audience. A lot of people that say, oh, it's a great experience in its own right, and then there are a lot of other people saying, well, where's the bloody game? Where's the mechanics?
I think they agree. Every person who has gone, it's beautiful, it looks great, has agreed that the gameplay is lacking. And everyone who said the gameplay sucks will at least give in and go, yes, it's pretty. You know, so if anything, I think we agree. It's just when we come into the experience argument, it's more like, well, what was I expecting? You know, and for me, I wasn't expecting this. When they say more than indie, I wasn't really expecting a movie. Like, why is Hollywood more than indie games? You know.
Well, that's the standard argument, isn't it? If you just want to make a movie, why don't you make a movie? Why you gotta take attention away from fucking great games that are actually games, like Star Trek Vagabond?
I say they can have it. I'll compare them to other games, but I'll also compare them to movies. So if anything, you kind of, by being on both lanes, you'd think you'd avoid traffic, but you're going to get hit by 2 trains when it's my turn to get you. Like, what? As a film, as a game,
Well, for me, this
shine a light on us, Marty.
Marty, go on.
I can't. My light burned out. I was asking for light recommendations. No, I get. It feels like we're in a time loop right now because I feel like this conversation comes up every few years, and again, it's part of the same conversation, and it makes sense. A lot of the same conversations come up, but. I remember this conversation coming up when I was a kid. I remember things like Mario Paint and people being like, what is this thing? I remember kids on the playground being like, that's not a game. And my response then was, who cares? I'm having fun doing my painting and making my Yoshi noises. And I feel like that is my same response to when people say, this isn't a game. My response is always like, I don't know, like, maybe we just have a lack of words to put the things. Maybe it's like a lack of imagination, but like we need to broaden this definition of what a game can be, because I feel like confining it to our preconceived notions or confining it to what we consider a game to be in 1995 or 2024, I feel like all we're doing is sort of we're putting the medium in a box and not allowing it to expand.
I know you're arguing from a general position of semantic arguing over what a game actually is, but I think it's flawed to bring up Mario Paint and compare it in this context to Hellblade 2.
Why is that?
Because Mario Paint is a creativity tool. It is undeniably interactive.
Mhm.
Hellblade 2 is very much what I have come to call a ghost train ride sort of experience, which a lot of like single player games are, sort of modeled around the theme park thing, where you're just constantly pushed along the course of the rail from one encounter to the next, and no interactivity is tolerated beyond what is intended by the creators. In contrast to something like Half-Life or Doom, where you are free to go back and forth as much as you like, the Ghost Train ride is just an unavoidable conveyor belt from disconnected encounter to encounter, much more in spirit with, as I say, a theme park ride or just watching a slideshow.
So there is interactivity, though. I think you're saying that there's not enough interactivity, or there's not enough kind of flavors of interactivity that you would want to see anything like this.
I like this. Marty's on the semantics. Yahtzee's on the mechanics of it all. Me, I'm more, again, of the consumer, because it's as if I like Taco Bell. I also like actual tacos from food trucks. If you tell me we're going to get Mexican, I'm not expecting Taco Bell.
Sure.
That doesn't
Same
make
thing with
Taco
like burgers.
Bell
Like a
lesser.
McDonald's burger is a thing. It's
Yeah.
not a burger in my mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're like, let's go get ours. And see, actually, that goes down to experience, because if you say, let's get a burger, I default to McDonald's.
Mhm.
If anything, it's only like if we go to, I don't know, a Red Robin, right?
Yeah.
Like the experience only gets better from there.
Sure.
And so the same thing with this for games. Like, hey, you want to play a game? Yeah, I'd love to play a game. Hellblade is a nice whatever it is, but it wasn't what I wanted when I was thinking game, especially as a sequel to Hellblade 1. I wasn't expecting less of the first game.
Sure.
My definition of game, as someone with an enthusiasm for the point where narrative and interactivity meet, is that a game is an experience created by two parties, by the input of the player and the output of the developer. And a Ghost Train ride or a Hellblade 2 sort of thing just feels like something that is entirely defined by the developer, with little input from the player's part tolerated beyond their capacity to solve extremely simple challenges.
Interesting. Now, it's not an absolute. Yes, there is like a balance of how much the developer has control over the player, because there are also walking simulators, as they put it. But even compared to walking simulators, this doesn't weigh in with Stanley Parable and Beginner's Guide, those kinds of things, you know?
Stanley Parable is fundamentally an interactive experience. I mean, it's basically a deconstruction of walking sims and ghost train rides, because the game says, "Hey, we're going in this direction." You can just choose to go another direction, and it will like play off your decisions. There's like what I'm railing against here is a game that has no decision making whatsoever on the
All right,
player's
what about
part.
Edith Finch or Firewatch? How's that? More linear.
Even that can be defined as more of an interactive experience, because
Right.
there is a degree to which the player decides the order in which they experience things. It's not just being shunted in a direction.
So like for you, there needs to be a like you said, that there's two primary authors. There's the developer and there's the player, and the player needs to have some form of authorship over what is happening in the game. Otherwise, it's one-way communication.
And I concede that this is, at its very fundament, a semantic argument. And I concede that there's nothing written in stone that says my definition has to be the case, and it's really just the definition I've developed over years of experience with the video games I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. No.
But
and I'm not trying to like attack that or anything.
No, but I'm just saying that this is the point from which the argument always rises over what a video game is.
But my big thing with games like this, and games that people consider to be non-games, games that people consider to, when you put the capital E word on things with experiences, what I get from a game, I was talking about this with Jack, I think on a stream a little while ago, is like I just want to walk away having felt something, and the form that feeling can come in can be any number of things. It can be the thrill of getting through a tough boss fight in a Souls game. It can be the feeling of mastering a specific puzzle or a platforming challenge. It could be a story that was delivered to me that moved me. It could be a gorgeous world that I existed in and wandered around. It could be a sense of horror or dread, in a horror game. It could be laughing at a comedy. It could be just like, I mean, it's trite at this point, but my whole existing in a world thing, like, to me, these walking simulators, these games where even if there's not a lot of input from me, I am getting so much from the audio and visual sensation of being in this place, and it feels different than a movie. If you were to just put it on a screen, either a theater screen or on your TV, I would not get the same as that relationship between me and the character, even if that relationship is as simple as just moving forward without any friction.
Interesting. It's a different point here to the point where you go, was it fun? That's all that mattered. I agree.
Well, that's not.
That's
well,
our position here. Like, yeah, was it fun? Was it not? That's all that you're focused on. But I generally do weigh so much more on just expectations, like Lorelei. A lot of people calling it one of the greatest puzzle games of the year. That's not the kind of puzzles that I was looking forward to. I'm not detracting anything from that. I'm not going to go, oh, that's an absolute lie. But they're math puzzles, brain teasers. I expected more puzzling in the form of Animal Well. Right, that to me is the greatest puzzle game of the year. Lorelei was a maths workbook put in front of me, stylized.
I mean, the first hour or two of Lorelei is that it does change quite a bit. Oh, I guess, and Animal Well, you could say the same thing, right? Pre-credit Animal Well is very different than post-credit Animal Well.
Sure, but it's still a different level of intuiting. Actually,
what constitutes a puzzle is a whole semantic argument in itself that we should probably cover at some point.
Yeah.
Hellblade's got puzzles. You want to talk about those? You want to go to this spot over here, look at the thing, click a button, and now go over here. It's solved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the puzzle. It's the kind of puzzle that I tend to denigrate. I mean, spiritually, it's akin to the sort of puzzle they used to have in Quake, where the puzzle was press 2 buttons instead of 1 to open a door.
Mm-hmm.
Like you press 1 and it says for 1, you find the other button, and then it will go sequence completed. And that's what the Hellblade puzzles feel like. It feels like walking around the environment until you find the thing that is like the sort of like the button. In this case, the place to stand, where the voice in your head will say, "Yes, this is the place to stand, you dumb twat. Now press the button."
Wait, that was Hellblade 1. it's pretty good. Pretty good.
The expectations thing is interesting too, because it's hard. It's impossible not to have expectations when going into a thing, whether it's something that you've been looking forward to for years, or whether it's just something you heard about a recommendation. When you hear a bunch of people saying, "Oh my God, Animal Well is amazing. Oh my God, Lorelei is amazing." Like, before you get in, there's already this kind of burden of expectations on you. But to me, expectations are like a supremely, I don't know, like a really just person by person thing. What one person went into Hellblade 2 expecting is completely different than what you went into, which is completely different than what I went into. So it's hard, and I guess all of this is obviously subjective. All of this is coming from our own opinions. But
let me ask you something, Marty. Is there a point where you'd cry foul? Like if you started a video game and it literally just played a movie for 2 hours,
he loves immortality, man. Don't ask.
But immortality is you are interacting with it. Oh my God, it's happening again. I mean, that is.
I just.
Yeah. No. That is a good point. Yeah. I mean, sure. If I hit a button, didn't do anything, and the game was over.
Okay, so what if because so now we've reached a point that you reject something as a game. Let's scale it back slowly. What if every 10 minutes a screen came up saying press button to continue? Would that still be a game?
That's a visual novel.
The screen dimmed a little
bit.
What? So every time Netflix goes, "Hey, are you still awake?" Is that a game?
Would you accept that as a game and defend it in a podcast such as this one?
But my thing is, I'm almost less interested in defending something as a game and more interested in how did it make me feel as a thing. Like whatever form it comes in kind of doesn't matter to me. It's like when you go to a theme park, like a Disney World. Right. There's kind of everything exists in the park. The park conforms around its concessions, around its restaurants, around its stores, around its lines. There are rides that you just sit there and the rides happen to you. There are rides you interact with. There are rides that are exciting or scary or telling a story. And all of these things can be true, and all these things can be a part of the same overall tapestry that is a theme park.
Sure. I think we get hung up on the word, though. Let's just say, Yahtzee went to one extreme. Where is the line? I say, let's go to the other extreme. Here's the certainty. Hellblade is a watch and play. That's just what we're going to call them. It's a watch and play, right? Was it a good one? I think that's more or less where people want to get stuck on.
You can't just say with a certainty.
No.
Hypothetically,
with just for this instance, let's just say that it's called a watch and play, right?
Okay.
Just because it has a name now doesn't mean we can't criticize it, and doesn't mean it can't be a bad one either. It's like when people say, "Oh, it's art." Okay, we're talking Mona Lisa, we're talking Jackson Pollock. There's bad art as well, and that's where I think that's again almost maybe still staying on the cynical part. You'd never say for good games, it was an experience, because you don't have to. I don't have to use a word to save it. Hellblade, to me, at its core, was disappointing as a game, and there is no retraction. Saying it's an experience doesn't really take away from that.
Hellblade's case is that it is clearly trying to be a game at times, because it's got combat and it's got
just remembers
puzzles.
we're there. Like, oh shit.
It just throws in combat every now and again, like it just suddenly remembered it's a video game called Hellblade. Not without wishing to spoil too much of my upcoming Fully Ramblematic that's coming out on Wednesday. The problem is, like, if the game had declared itself to be a walking sim with no actual gameplay in it, and you just go through experiences in a sort of vaguely interactive way, I'd probably have a lot less complaints about it. I mean, I love the beginner's guide. I've played through it like 3 times, which is very much a walking sim, in contrast to Stanley Parable by the same developer. And I appreciate that as a story experience. But it's the parts where Hellblade 2 sort of does its token acknowledgement of being a video game, where I have my arguments with it. I mean, I'm happy for them to live in their little world of visual novels and walking sims. It's fine for people to enjoy. If people paying money for it, then there's a place for it in the world, clearly.
Yeah.
But get off my turf, Hellblade. Get out of my neighborhood, or I'll call the local Crips on you.
What did you?
The Crips.
The local Trips? Crips or Trips?
He's in
Crips.
He's in
Crips,
San
okay.
Francisco. He's talking like gang territory.
Yeah. Did you feel the same way about?
That's one of those gangs they have, isn't it? The Crips and the Bloods.
Dude, Crips and the Bloods, the big two. Did you feel the same way about Hellblade 1?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually went back and went over my old review of Hellblade 1 and thought, oh, what do you know? Pretty much the same complaints.
Frost, you said you liked Hellblade 1 more than
I
Hellblade 2,
love
right?
Hellblade 1. I think.
Okay, and I'm also just saying I still haven't played
Yeah.
Hellblade 2. So I'm
haven't.
I'm not arguing the merits one way or the other.
It's like Avatar 2. I think that's my prediction.
Saving it for my deathbed.
Yeah. No, I love Hellblade 1, especially because of as Yahtzee says, the interaction between developer and player input. I think it's one of the best in its class. For whatever, even Hellblade 1, that's the thing. I don't describe it as a game because I don't care. I'm like you, Marty. I loved it. Why do I care what it's called? I rose by any other name. But I also didn't have to defend it. So I still didn't look for a word.
Sure.
Hellblade 2, to be that guy, it's because it's not that enjoyable. So we're like, oh, it's an experience. It's like that Roger Ebert review. I forgot what movie it was, where it's like, it's not a good film. It's not good porn. It's not good art. That's all. That's all Hellblade 2 is for me. It's like it's not a good film. It's not a good game. I'm not sure what it is. Right. But we're getting caught on the semantics, so to speak, because it's.
I've often complained about games that try to be too many things, and then ends up being a disappointing experience for everyone who wants each of those things individually. So where were we? Yes, we were defining when a game becomes an experience. So let's move on from Hellblade 2. Let's go to a game that let's carry on from what I was saying about the Beginner's Guide. The Beginner's Guide I would call an experience.
Right.
And quite an interesting one that tells an interesting story with an interesting.
So why even delineate the line between game and experience?
Because it's in the fucking title of the podcast, Marty. That's what we're here for.
You can't do that to Marty.
No, I'm just curious. Like, why not just call it a game? Like, what is your what's the?
I mean, that is a type of game, is it not?
When we
linear walking
is an experience a type of game? Is that just a genre now, like the experiential genre?
I mean, if they sell it on the bloody thing,
for me,
or do you think it's an entirely different medium?
It's like the ghost train ride thing. An experience is what a theme park offers. The thing on the rail where nothing
Sure.
actually really changes and you're just being sent through something. A game to me implies play, and play is interaction.
Okay.
Yes, or a challenge to one's skills.
Whatever the Chipotle equivalent of Mexican food is, that's what games need right now. They need Tex-Mex. This thing that really you hear it and you go, oh, okay, that's what I'm getting into with this specific brand of game, right?
Yeah.
I think we just like words.
Sure, it's a
And,
young.
and
It's a
I'm
young
running out of
medium.
things to add shmup to. You know what is this
Yeah.
thing?
Well, it's a young medium, and it's a young medium that is built sort of foundationally on the words we use to describe movies. And in movies, we describe them using story genre, right? Like, this is a horror movie, this is a comedy, this is a romance, that kind of thing. And you can do that with games, but then games have that other layer of interactivity. So you can have a horror game that is a 2D platform, or a horror game that is a 3D crafting thing, a horror game that is a first person you can't die kind of thing.
Yeah, it's when we didn't push back on action adventure that that's when we started suffering. All the likes.
I think that trade's already passed. We can't solve that one. I don't like. Is there not a? Because I can't help when you say the word experience that it sounds pejorative, but you said you enjoyed the beginner's guide. So you don't mean
Yes.
the word pejoratively when you use it?
No. For another example, Before Your Eyes
Mm-hmm.
was, I would define as an experience that I very much enjoyed.
Yeah,
Good.
that's actually
Gimmicky.
that's one I had written down. Yeah.
I mean, I
It's-
just It's
Were you trying to play with sunglasses and you couldn't do it?
needs yeah, it needs a better sort of like selling phrase, I guess. The thing that you put up on a billboard, like idle games, if they had no actual name, you would only be able to say it's an experience. I don't know, it's an experience, right? But now it has a name. You say idle game, you know exactly what you're getting for.
I think we're running up against once again the fundamental problem that that's the phrase video game is used to describe so many different varied experiences, and yet they're still like boxed together in the video game label. Like I was listening to Ross Scott's interview on You and Yours, the BBC radio program this morning, and he specifically mentioned that live service games that eventually die are literally sold alongside single player games that will never die on a shelf, with no indication to the consumer that there's a difference between the two. And it kind of feels like the same thing. You'd put like a Before Your Eyes or Beginner's Guide in a box alongside fucking Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, and no one would bat an eye. But these are all offering fundamentally different things.
But need to be word Nazis. Too much. We've gotten too far on the I don't know what to call it, but I know what it is when I see it. The old porn defense, right? If we had just found better names, we wouldn't be in this position here. But it takes someone who's good with words, who's also hip with the crowd.
Yeah, and that's also why so many people lean on genres that are directly referencing other genres, with rogues and Souls-like and those kind of things. Because it is, to me, it is easier to be like, it's a Souls-like, at the very least points you in the cardinal direction. And then from there, we can dig into, what do I mean by that? Is it 2D? Is it 3D? Is it cartoony? Is it realistic? Is it hard as nails? Does it bend to you?
Well, this is an essential part of the culture surrounding an art form, because otherwise history just repeats itself. If you can't point to something and say, hey, it's influenced by this, this, and this, then society forgets. And then we just go over the same innovations over and over again. Like when L.A. Noire rediscovered adventure games.
Yeah. That's why I'm so, I tend to be so kind of celebratory towards these games, these experiences that try something completely different, even if they completely stumble. And it's because I'm looking at it and saying, someone's going to play this thing and take a kernel of this and then put it into something else. And we're going to see a game that is a more traditional game, that does have more traditional mechanics, that was inspired by something in, LCD Dream Emulator, or something in fucking Encarta's Mind Maze.
I remember that. I was just...
Was that a game?
I mean, well, as I was just saying, we need to remember the past, because if we don't remember the past, we're doomed to repeat it. And Like I've seen the name Dragon's Lair come up in the chat a lot, and that's something I like name drop in my upcoming review. Actually, Hellblade 2 feels like playing Dragon's Lair. The combat, especially, it's just
You don't have to
pressing
pay
the
a
right.
dollar every time you die, though.
Yeah, pressing the right button when the thing flashes,
Yeah.
and
But
that's so it
sometimes
doesn't.
that's fucking cool. Asura's
And if
Wrath
people-
is fucking cool.
But if people more
you
collectively
still fight,
remembered,
though.
but if people more collectively remembered Dragon's Lair, they wouldn't like present something like Hellblade 2 as something new and innovative. They'd just say, "Oh, it's a Dragon's Lair." Like,
That's my thing, where you're like, maybe someone else will pick up on this. What exactly are they picking up on? Because I feel like it's regressed.
yeah, I mean, what innovation is there in Hellblade 2 to be taken forward?
I mean, there's no. I don't think anyone. I would say sound design is one of the in Hellblade 1. I think sound design is one of the things that stuck with me.
Right.
In terms of innovation, or not even in terms of innovation, just in terms of like, oh, you handled this interestingly, especially if you're playing with good headphones or surround sound.
Sure.
You handled the topic like psychosis in an interesting way. Could that have been done in a movie? Absolutely, you could have absolutely done that. But they
I'm
didn't,
interested
so
to
it's okay.
see your take once you've played it. Not in a, because people will take this as like, Marty can't have an opinion. No, because if anything, I think he's more accurate to the point. I played it. My girlfriend watched. She loves it. Absolutely loved what she saw. I said it felt so bad. That is one of the most offensive things to put in my hands.
Yeah,
I rather would have been watching it than having to play it. And a lot of that will come into that combat that everyone goes, oh, it looks so cool and cinematic. And I'm like, if it felt like I played for a little bit and then they yanked it. It's like, here, your turn. No, give it back. No, your to give it back. And it was just really poorly done in that way.
it was. I've been rewatching old E3 conferences on my personal channel, and I was
Because
watching.
you hate yourself, is that why?
No,
listen,
well, he's catching up on his history. He's not going to repeat
catching
it.
up on my history, dude, to
Oh,
repeat
okay.
each other. I just did
Okay,
what
fair
Tommy
enough.
Yahtzee told me to. And I was watching 2005, 2006, 2007. So this was sort of the introduction of the 360, the PS3, the Wii, which, funny enough, Xbox always has the best of those conferences, which, like, what happened? What happened to our boy? Xbox, especially 2007, was just like, oh, here's Orange Box and Modern Warfare and BioShock and Halo 3. But
They
anyways,
became gaming PCs is what they did.
I mean, that is pretty, yes.
And now, like,
And
Sony's pretty much the only company still playing the console war game.
just with themselves, while Nintendo's over
Yeah,
here just counting money.
Yeah, Nintendo does its own thing, and Sony's like, please, someone oppose us so we can make this a war again.
But it was funny seeing Nintendo in that era, their DS Wii era, how many things they brought up that they kept saying aren't traditional games. You know, this was really when they were trying to broaden their horizons to find, you know, to appeal to grandmas and people who don't play games. And so, like, what of that era, like, when you look at a thing like Brain Age or you look at a thing like Wii Fit, like, where do you view these sort of kind of learning or betterment tools, or even I don't know. There's that new game Shashingo that came out. That's a photography game, but where you learn Japanese through photography. Like, is
Right.
Duolingo a game?
That's a language I'm up, isn't it?
It's certainly gamified,
Yeah.
Sure.
but this is what going back to what I was saying. Like, it's probably not fair to group them in with games, but we will because that's just how we've always done it. And these are all fundamentally offering fundamentally different things. It's gaming's disadvantage when you go against films. I mean, films, there's always like a stated intention there. You're going to watch a 2-hour story, you're going to interact with characters, there's probably going to have a happy ending or whatever, and it'll be an engaging story and blah, blah, blah.
There's like
But that's
experimental
just-
film, there's porno, there's short films.
There's Christopher
Yeah, but-
Nolan.
But you always know you're going to be experiencing a non-interactive emotional experience. But video games,
Bandersnatch.
that's just one like tiny facet of video games. There's also, as we
Yeah.
say, the simulations, the educational games, the live services that are just like grinding up shooting enemies over and over again. These are all on a baseline level fundamentally different to story-based artistic media.
Sure. It's interesting because I think, again, it's like dealing with an unruly customer, though, that just shows up to this establishment and it's like, I want a game. Instead, we should be saying, I want 2 game, but how much, so to speak?
Mm.
It's the degree of the game. Because some days I want nothing but raw gameplay. Give me a nice roguelike I can keep going over and over again. If you have any line of dialogue, I will probably uninstall because of just I don't want to read right now. I don't want to hear anything about your narrative. And other days, Ace Attorney's on that. I'm reading through here. That's what I'm doing for.
Some days you just want gaming to be just some sort of amorphous mass you can stick your head in for a few minutes to pass the time.
Yep.
What you want is the fucking metaverse from Ready Player One or whatever it was called.
Oh God,
Just
From Mark Zuckerberg.
yeah, just something stick your head in for half an hour and just like piss about for a while because you're bored.
There you go. Yeah, sometimes you just want like that online bar, so to speak. And it's, if anything, it's our job as the people who are at the funnel, at the stream of all the gaming, to sort of redirect it to the people who want it. We are kind of like consumers guides still. Maybe not in the technical aspect anymore, but we still like, hey, this is what you're into. This is what this is. Not because I do or don't like things that are this thing, but it's because it's the closest words that we have. You tried, Yachts. Recursive almost caught on.
I think the problem was Sprawler. You went too far out on the ledge. He calls them recursive sprawlers, right?
Like me when I'm on the bed and I've had too many. Like,
well, recursive describes one sort of thing, and sprawler describes specifically the Metroidvania style layout of a Dark Souls.
Sure. Oh no, then we got the Metroidvania. That's 2 games in one.
Oh God!
Oh no, it's happening again.
Well, I think we should go to Super Chats.
There's one last game I want to bring up.
Okay.
Indica. Do you put Indica in the same vein as a Hellblade, or do you think it is doing something different?
It's certainly Hellblade adjacent.
I put them in the same, whatever the one genre is, it's the same thing. It's just better.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's better for not having an attempt at core combat, certainly. It's certainly a lot clearer on its identity.
Could you imagine if Indica had combat
experience?
Choke someone out with a rosary.
I think the fact that it keeps like changing what it is as you're going through it sort of is enough indication that you shouldn't really rely on anything as a core mechanic in that game.
In my mind, when you said indication, I spelled it Indica.
Indication with a K. Yeah,
with a K.
Fair enough.
Like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that is like in the opening few minutes, I was like, how many after you have to fill that water bucket up like 5 times, I was like, is this gonna be a thing we have to do often? Because this isn't gonna be good.
I love that.
There's payoff at the end of it, which I liked, and you never have to do it again. So
that was fun to watch, Yachts, as he's like going through the bucketing, and it's like, oh, what's gonna be the twist or anything? I was like, nothing. You're just gonna get disappointed. You've experienced disappointment. It is an experience, and it was a good one. Well,
there you go.
It was I also like when the game kept saying none of these points matter, and I was like, but do they?
How long were you on the level up? Oh my God! I was there for a while.
Way too long.
And I was lying to me. Yeah, that was
yeah, way too long. That was certainly an experience that brought out emotions.
Do you think
Hellblade 2 just sort of brought out the emotion of wanting to stop watching a mentally disabled woman getting the shit beaten out of her? Whatever that is.
Do you think the lead up to those 2 games had something to do with them? Do you think like Hellblade is a game that keeps being on? I mean, I know you don't watch all these press conferences and stuff, Yahtzee, but like this is a game that Microsoft has showcased at their conferences, and it was at Summer Game Fest and the Game Awards, and like constantly, one of those things that was in our face for years and years. Whereas Indica kind of just popped up. Like I think it might have been in Steam Next Fest last time, but kind of just popped up out of nowhere, and then people were like, "Oh, this game's pretty cool. Check it out." Like it didn't feel like it had the same baggage as a thing like Hellblade.
I think the implication when something is pushed, as you describe, by its company like that, is that they're offering a broad experience. I mean, that's the implication. They're saying, "Hey, this is something that everyone could enjoy." Whereas in some cases like that, they might just be thinking, "Let's hope enough of these copies will be sold before word of mouth gets around."
Yeah. Cool. You want to go to super chats?
Okay.
I do have a bunch of things to talk about, but a lot
Get the
of them
super
are
chats. I
brought up
hope
here.
some of you put money on my side, where I just
have a feeling like
better words.
Just 3 different jars, like a coffee shop.
3 different jars. Frost jar is we need better words. Language is dying.
Yes, more or less. That's pretty much what the very first super chat I just saw was. Thought takes. Member for 4 months in the Green Gang says, "Who cares what it isn't? Let's talk about what it is." Ooh, philosophy, semantics, etc.
hits bong grip.
I want to find someone that I can get away from the experience conversation and get straight into the story conversation. Yahtzee, I imagine you finally made it past the weird forest. What the fuck was that, man?
I know. Like I stopped playing at that point. I was like, okay, we're just gonna get the shit beaten out of us again. But then I just went through it. We just sort of went into the forest and then pissed about and then went out again.
It's about
It was like, well, what the?
your insanity is a new form of sanity, but what's his name? Thor Jr. is like the most
Yeah.
stable Norseman in the world. Like
Little
Yeah.
Thor. Oh,
Little.
who's little baby Thor?
Like
Yeah.
what a weird story, just all around.
Yeah, I finished the game now, and like I feel like it's really sort of anticlimactic at the end.
Mm,
And
yeah, not to
then
give
you
away the
then you
movie
get
too
to
much.
then you get to play the game again, but with a different narrator. And I was like, I kind of don't want to do that.
Yeah, no.
New
Wacky,
Game Plus. New
wacky,
narrator.
yeah, and it also sort of like conflicts with the first one, where you're like, is this all in her head? This could be happening to an old woman with dementia in the modern age. You know, it could be anything going like that.
That's
Whereas
part of
this
the
one
reason.
is like,
That's-
are we all in
yeah.
on it?
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I liked Hellblade 1 more. I thought there was a lot much clearer ambiguity, if that's not an oxymoron.
That is a
On,
great word there. I like that.
Clear
that.
ambiguity.
Clear
It was-
ambiguity. That's good.
It was much more ambiguous as to whether this was all in Senua's head or not. But in the second game, there's like all these other characters saying, hey, this isn't in your head because we're all watching it as well.
It's anime as hell, Marty. It is Black Clover, where the thing holding you back is a superpower here.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play it.
Yeah.
My problem was I got sick, and then the power went out, and then I was out of town, and then a week passed, and I'm now on to new games like Tiny Terry's Turbo Team.
See, that's an experience.
Oh my god! I'm trying to get Yahtzee to
I'm-
play it on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll try it out on Wednesday, I think.
Hell yeah! I don't even know if any of those. I think 3 of those words were written. Also, really quick, Dr. Theo gave $2 in the old chat before the old chat died, and said, "What is a tech demo or an experience?"
Those
I
are
guess
like
it's
your,
kind of like
what?
no.
I was thinking like what, superliminal, right? Just kind of do this one thing, and then we'll add a little story to it. I suppose.
Yeah. Well, there was that
tech demo is that without the story.
Did either of you futz with that Matrix thing a few years ago that came out for PS5? The
No.
Matrix,
Nope.
like it was like an Unreal 5 Matrix experience. I think
Nope.
that's literally might have been what they called it. I think those things work fine. Like I would not say that was a game, but it was. Oh no, I'm becoming what I hate. But it is a thing I enjoyed doing. It's a thing I enjoyed doing, and a thing I highly recommend because it made me feel something. And I like.
In the end, games are toys, and there's different kinds of toys. You know.
Well, it's funny you should say that because
Toys R Us
Fox
has a
D,
lot of aisles.
Fox D in his $5 super chat says the word game is too broad and needs to be segmented. Will Wright used the phrase software toy to describe
Oh.
things like Mario Paint and SimCity.
Look at me.
Interesting.
I'm the bard.
Yeah, you
So-
Will Wright and Fox D, the big 3.
So a software
Um,
toy would be like something like Mario Paint, and a game would be something that actually has like a progression path and an ending. Is that
That's
what
just
we're
a
defining
progression
here?
toy, isn't it? I mean, we used to call them Skinner
I mean,
boxes.
what about? Sure, yeah. What about there's things like your like Journey or Abzu where there's like no fail state. Like there is a path you ultimately need to go on in order to continue doing things, but there's really no puzzles. There's no fail state. But I feel like people aren't arguing. I don't know if it's POV or what, but like people don't really argue that Journey's not a game. Whereas people, when like Gone Home came out, and those are like around the same time, were like, this isn't a game. And I don't know, maybe it's the point of view. People saw the first person, and you associate first person with give me a gun and let me shoot things.
I think it all just comes down to expectations, like we keep saying. I mean,
Hey,
like I said, Hellblade 2 has combat, presents itself as a game. Gone Home, I think, like many people, when I first started it, I thought, oh, this must be some kind of survival horror game where we explore a house that's deserted and eventually find a monster. And then when we find it isn't that, and our expectations are confounded, that's where a certain amount of mixed feelings can emerge. But anyway, Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, this topic feels like the never-ending question, what is art? To which I say, when a game makes you feel an emotion taken to a 10, it's an experience. But the same...
A kick in the balls is art.
Yes, like that could be a
Fantastic.
film. A film makes you feel an emotion. This is why we need to figure out why we differentiate between games and films.
I think see that the art thing is good. Very much with Marty, very much with that of like if it's a thing, it's an experience. It made me feel thing. But games are part tech, and it's that tech part that demands sort of utilitarian words. What am I doing with the blasted thing? You know, that's where we're kind of stuck on here. Like a lawnmower, you know what the thing does. I'm gaming.
Well,
how much gaming are we talking?
The fuck out of here! I'm gaming.
I'm gaming.
Yo, I am gaming. The Buck der Herr der Dunkelheit gives €5 and says, let's date this episode by mentioning this is the first episode one starting 10 minutes late. And if not, let's date this by me being wrong and stupid. Are you ever going to let us hear the end of it, the Buck der Herr der Dunkelheit?
Listen, it was no one's fault. It was Restream's fault. We were all on time. We pulled the trigger. Restream did a goofy. I had to pay. Nick was out buying dog food, so I had to fix everything. And I'm not as quick on the draw on the back end as Nick.
Man, the internet's a fucking house of cards, isn't it? There's probably like...
It really is.
It's actually a bunch of tubes, I believe.
Yeah, there's probably like 3 or 4 things that if they went down, everything would just be fucked, and no one thinks about it because it's too depressing and worrying.
Yeah, one intern just like tripping over the cable. It's out. A shark in the meridian. Done.
Yeah.
You know they just let those hang, like the cables just hang out in trenches.
Yeah, someone's got to bite that, right?
You got to think. Like those giant Japanese spider crabs.
Yep.
Anyway,
wait, what are these giant Japanese spider crabs? I'm gonna Google it. No,
did you play another Crab's Treasure, Marty?
I did. Oh,
well,
the thing with long legs.
Towards the end, the thing with the telephone on its head.
Yeah,
that's Japanese. That's a giant Japanese spider crab.
It's a crabby long legs.
These guys are fucked. I don't like them at all.
Nah.
Oh yes.
What? Yeah, crabby long legs. That one. Oh.
Crabby long legs.
If you want to see something that will freak you the fuck out, look at pictures of deep sea marine life.
Eric, get it out of there! You didn't put up a warning. The spider phobia warning.
I mean, it's no more disquieting than a Half-Life 2 Strider, I'd have said.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one's real.
Those live among us.
That's so disquieting. Yeah, exactly.
They breathe the same air we do.
No, it doesn't. It lives on the bottom of the sea in a place you never go.
That's where my internet are. That's where I get my pornos from. What if I'm getting my pornos one day and he pops through?
Oh, you might. Like a snake coming out the toilet for you after you saw Anaconda.
The Buck the Hair to Dunkelheit gives another €2 and says, oops, forgot to proofread. Yeah, I'm stupid.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, well, we all knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Verbuchter. I think you're great. I think you speak great German.
Jules Rowe gives €2 and says, would you guys recommend Starstunk Vegemite? Meaning, of course, Starstruck Vagabond, my game, what I put out.
What
How
you
do you feel
looking
when
for?
people
Yes.
take your game and give it a silly name?
Definitely play my game. Give it as many silly names as you want, as long as you buy the fucking thing.
Buy a second copy and give it a second silly name. Name them both.
There'll be a chance to do that soon, because we're putting out the soundtrack with like a bundle of the game with the soundtrack. So, you know, if you want to gift it to someone, that would be a great opportunity to do that and also get a nice soundtrack for yourself.
Did you ever make an experience?
Him? The core gameplay loop guy?
No, I'm just wondering. I'm familiar with some of your games. I'm not familiar with like some earlier ones. I don't know if there was any...
Closest one is that the idle game he made.
Oh yeah, that was fun. I once had an idea for a concept game that was like a visual novel where you're given a short like scene and then you're given 2 choices. And then every choice you make branches the entire story and like completely recontextualizes it. But it was too much of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I
So
always
I
wanted to
stopped.
make that too. But I have
like
no
a twine
talent.
thing almost?
What's that?
Like a twine story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like every scene, just like it starts off with very little context. Like you're in a hospital waiting room, and then you get one choice, and whatever you choose changes whether it's a abandoned hospital or if it's a functioning hospital, and that goes into 2 completely different threads of stories.
Sure.
Right? Every choice you make completely recontextualizing things. But yeah,
Groundhog Day.
it would have taken too much writing, so I couldn't be asked.
And that would get rid of your dreaded ending Tron? Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Just a completely different story depending on what decisions you make.
Did you like choosing
Obviously-
adventure books as a kid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Fighting
so
fantasies. I was all over that shit.
That explains so much.
Goosebumps.
Keeping your finger in the last page just in case you're about to walk into a
Yes.
horrible death.
Every game should have an undo button. Listen,
Well,
I just made
they-
one mistake. Let me undo.
Were
it.
you,
Well-
were you talking
well,
about
they
seeing
do.
stars or whatever it was called? The Sokoban that just come out.
Oh,
I like that you can undo
Sun
one
and Sky.
step.
Yeah, so do I. You can just
Sun
undo
and
the whole
Sky.
room, undo a single one.
Well, they all have restore buttons, don't they? They all have load game functions.
Yeah, but this is like one step back. Sometimes you just went one step too far.
I liked that when Prince of Persia: Sands of Time did it.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Pixel Grip, it was $10. Says, first time catching this live in a long while, so showing my support for all you guys do. And also love the adorable Toffee Cam. Give him all the love and pets.
Oh, thank you, Pixel Grip.
I think he most just wants a walk right now.
Don't we all?
Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, saw an article about Sony's CEO shocked at PC gamers' patience of PS exclusives coming to Steam. They're even still waiting for Bloodborne. Thoughts?
Wait, can I get that? I want to see that because I asked that question. I was like, does the exclusivity thing work on PC players? I know it works on console players, but does it work on PC?
I mean, I think the best example of no, it doesn't is people a week ago getting super excited that the Kingdom Hearts games were coming to Steam, and it's like they've been on Epic for several years. So,
Yeah.
That's my thing. Is if PC gamers can wait out them coming to another box on the same PC, then they'll absolutely wait 2 years for God of War Ragnarok or whatever.
I got Hades 1 on Epic because it was an early access, it was exclusive, and I wanted it so bad. And I regret that. Like that still weighs me down. I've bought it. I'm getting it on Steam again and again. Like I'm not doing that again. My library.
So is Sony CEO just pissed off that people aren't buying PlayStations in order to play the exclusives? Like, was his devious plan?
I just think what they're saying their plan is if a game is multiplayer, it's probably going to come day and day to PC, which part is why Helldiver's success was obviously attributed to that. But if a game is single player, they'll be like, oh, we'll kind of do staggered releases, and the hardcore fans will get it this year, and PC fans can wait a year and a half or 2 years. Which
I knew that was his game plan. I just didn't think he'd be surprised by it.
I think these people I think each little ecosystem is a very different world, and I don't think a lot of people understand the different worlds.
Like I said, Sony's pretty much the only company still trying to play console wars.
Yeah.
Xbox is basically fully PC integrated now, and Nintendo, as always, is just amusing itself in the corner of the room, just playing with its belly button.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that was PG.
They're finally getting to that point where it's like, they're practically just little PCs. You got to know your competition.
Oh, well. Anyway, Pixel Grip gives $10. There's also, I don't know why, but the first game I thought of when I read this topic is Shadow of the Colossus, which is on my top 5 favorite games. Thoughts on that game in terms of this topic? It's a game. Piss off.
No, but I will push back at what Frost, you were saying. We only use experience when it's a thing that we're like, ooh, we don't want to call this a game. But I think a thing like that, I don't know.
No, what I said, we only use the word experience when the game sucks.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think you would say, oh my god, Shadow of the Colossus, an incredible experience. I'd
It's a
say
game.
Breath of the Wild.
That sort of illustrates the fact that something can be an experience and a game. Because I agree. I mean, if the word experience fits anything, Shadow of the Colossus certainly fits it.
Yeah, but I would never. I guess
Is it not a game?
No.
Yeah.
To your point, Frost, I
No,
would say
it is
it's an experience, not a game. But I would say the emotions I had made it feel like an experience to me. It is absolutely still a game.
Okay, I get you.
It is. It is a game, but it's also a capital E experience. It's nothing that nothing else can offer, really.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I would say Animal Well felt like those moments. I'm like, ooh, this is something special to me.
Well, that's the thing is great games they always feel like experiences to me. So if all you're left with is it was just an experience, because it wasn't that good.
So Eric, roll that trailer back. Did you see that 9.7? That was me.
That was you.
Oh, look at that.
I fought for a 10. I couldn't give it a 10.
Oh, look at you.
Why not?
You had to
Wow.
it was one of those, to give a 10, you had to defend your life. And I'm really bad at that. I ultimately just I don't fucking care. Give it a 9.7. I just want to get out of this meeting.
Remember when we all used to be? Remember when we all used to be much more culturally important?
Man, now we're just old and no one cares except for Frost. Your
I was like, what's this?
Our stocks are going down.
I'm going up. What are we doing?
Yeah. Okay. You're a rising star,
There you
asshole.
go.
RoboNob the Snob gives €50, deep red super chat no less, and says a game has meaningful interactions that give you some kind of reward, either gameplay or emotional ones. E.g., putting a hat on Joel in The Last of Us 2 is the latter. If the interactions are divorced from both, it stops being a game. So I hate Hellblade 2.
But you hate Hellblade 2 as a game. It's a difference to be like Hellblade 2 is not the thing I wanted, so I hate it. Versus Hellblade 2 is this thing. I experienced this thing and I hate this thing. You know what I mean? Like
I get you.
hate it for what it is. Don't
yeah,
hate it for what
I
it
get you.
isn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's you can't just say like bad games aren't games. I completely agree with that because that's like saying like, oh, I don't make mistakes. It was almost like, oh, the devil made me do all the wrong I've ever done in my life. You have to have some responsibility. You have to accept that some games are just shit. I don't think that's what detracts it from it, and that's why I also just don't care. I was like,
Yes,
well, no.
and for the record, I hate Hellblade 2 for exactly what it was and not what it wasn't.
Exactly.
There you go.
Whatever you end up
I will-
calling it in the end, I will come back, I will state it, and then I will say it still sucked as one.
A winged potato gives 9.99 and says, I think an important part of this is just expectations. Don't want to start up a game expecting combat and get a just move forward type. It's why descriptors are useful as flawed as they are.
I think
Yeah, that's what I was
another
saying.
for the frost jar. Getting a lot of experience in word donos here.
Did you?
then
Were
Ro-
you like what? Were you
Expectations, sorry.
expecting going into Hellblade 2? Were you expecting like deep?
I wasn't
combat?
expecting to ask for a Big Mac, and it was more lettuce and more bun and less meat. If Hellblade if this was the first Hellblade ever, I don't think as many people would be as mad. I don't think we'd even be having this conversation.
Sure.
But it made the big mistake of coming up after the first one, and the first one being so damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think expectations play into it. I don't think maybe into us three, because I feel like we're capable of separating ourselves a bit more. But I do think that the public that doesn't like it, it's even worse. It almost just like in my review, I kind of split it where I said as a game on its own, I don't care for it. Compared to Hellblade 1, which I loved, yeah, it was awful.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought the story in Hellblade 2 kind of sucked. It didn't make sense as well.
But we're walking so much and they're talking to me. There's no character development for how much they're forcing these characters onto me. I don't get it.
Yeah. And also, it has that weirdly fetishistic beating up the strong female protagonist thing that a weirdly large amount of games that focus on a female-centered narrative tend to have.
But we beat
And
up
that
a
would make
man.
a really great
right at the start,
semi-emblematic in the future.
Possibly, if I could find like a good, thrust to get me through it.
There was a thing I was hesitating with. I think it's because it's so narrative heavy that it's hard to really dig into the parts that I don't like about it. And it's my respect for not wanting to spoil it that stops me from really digging in that knife as to like why I don't like whatever the hell you want to call it.
Set aside a time. We'll set a timer for like 2 months.
I want spoilerful
and
reviews.
then you could just go at it. We should just have one episode where this is full spoilers. We're just gonna really.
It's just spoilers, no conversation. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
like God of War Ragnarok. My issues with it, like I'd have to spoil.
Yeah.
It just.
I mean, we're sort of about talking about a riff tracks here. We just like play the whole game in front of us and take the piss out of it as it goes. I'd probably enjoy it.
I do that for Hellblade.
I do that for Hellblade too. Although it might confuse things if we add the fucking voices in Senua's head.
They had 2 voices already. We'll just take those out, put ours in.
Ooh, that's how we'll experience Silent Hill 2.
We'll mod the game. We'll remove the voice in your head characters, and we'll just mod our own commentary track in there instead.
It already felt like a DVD commentary.
Yeah. Hey, Senua, you suck. It's like what? What's
That's
your fucking
exactly-
case one of these days?
That's the degree of it. Because in the first one, it was like well choreographed madness. Again, it was this weird order chaos that they were balancing. In the second one, it was like, oh girl, you see that skull over there? That's gonna be you if you don't get out of here. Like that's just what it felt like a really.
Well, if then
movie
the other
watching
voice
experience.
would then repeat the same sentence but in a slightly ethereal way.
Yeah,
It's like that skull's gonna be you. Gonna be you.
it's gonna be.
They need them to disagree more. No, that's not true. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. That skull's not gonna be you. That's another person's skull. Just keep going.
Isn't that the fucking Deadpool thing? Like they do it in the Deadpool comics, and they did it in Deadpool the game as well. Though he's got like 2 sort of competing voices in his head that are narrating his actions.
Almost like 2 angels, or an angel and a devil. I guess not 2 angels. That would be just having a good judgment. Also, really quick,
one real angel and Chris Angel,
and a mind freak. Really quick, Tungsten. Sorry. Thank you so much for gifting money on Ko-fi. No message, but thank you, Tungsten.
There you go. Rubbing off the snob then gives us another €5, says, and adding to that, Hellblade 2, even as a movie, was poorly written. God, I hated it so much.
Yeah.
Quite. Rubbing off the snob. We were just saying all that. Eric Whitecart, oh, hello, Eric, gives 50 asses and says Netflix interactives and those DVD extras before would be an interactive movie or an interactive game. Some have more gameplay than visual novels.
Yeah, what about did you ever do Bandersnatch?
No, it's just fucking Dragon's Lair again, isn't it?
Yes.
Did you ever do those old Disney films with the hidden Mickeys on the DVD?
That sounds great.
Those are fun.
Anyway. Fox D gives $10 and says not to bang the same drum beat again, but focusing on the art excludes the entire simulation platform gaming adjacent hobby. Are truck sim or iRacing not games by Yahtzee's own definition of a game? Well, this is going back to saying that game is too broad a term. As I said, again, if you simulations like you're describing would still be sold on the same shelf alongside Uncharted and Overwatch and Wii Fit, when these are all fundamentally offering different experiences, and that's a problem.
I love this because it's sort of like, really, where's the line between a virtual walking museum of the Colosseum and Assassin's Creed 2? You know, where is the game? Oh yeah,
Well, you can stab people.
When I was a kid, I played a lot of my first person multiplayer games were like couch co-op, like N64, like GoldenEye or Hexen or Perfect Dark or anything like that. And there'd be sometimes when I didn't have my friends over and before bots were a thing, where I would just go into a multiplayer game and just walk around. I didn't have anyone to shoot. There was nothing to shoot. There was nothing that could hurt me. I was just kind of wandering around.
Have you seen that concept horror game that's based around the concept of playing a multiplayer game when no one else is in the server?
Ooh, no, I like that though. I like Dead Worlds.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I forget what it's called. It's something like No Players on Server, I think it's called.
Ooh, that sounds good. I bet the twist is gonna be there's a player on the server.
I think that's very much the case, yes. Or something like there's a ghost in the server or some shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like.
Sounds like just growing up in the Midwest.
That was exactly growing up in the Midwest. But I think that's where like my kind of real infatuation and reverence with these sort of give me a space to just wander. And then I found out about games like LSD Emulator, and now you have the Cosmo D games, or even like you played pools the other week, right? For Yahtzee tries. Like I thought that was a cool. Just this isn't a thing I want to spend 10 hours in, but this is a thing that for like half an hour I liked existing there, and I found it really fucking interesting, and it gave me weird thoughts and emotions. Which
sounds like you want urban exploration and drugs without the consequences.
I mean, I do love
those are
exploring
experiences,
cities, and and I do, and drugs are pretty cool as well. So yeah. The big two.
Alex Armstrong is $5 and says, would you get the exact same experience replaying a game you love over and over like Silent Hill 2, or is it only good the first time like The Return of Obra Dinn? Well, I've played Silent Hill 2 like 50 times because obviously after the first time you know the twist in the plot, but after that I just really love being immersed in that atmosphere, I suppose. The experience of going through the plot points again with the knowledge of what they all mean in the background. Looking out for all the interesting imagery and shit. Return of the Obra Dinn, in contrast, it's not really an atmosphere game. It's more bureaucratic, filling in the boxes in your insurance form, and it's not quite as fun to immerse yourself in the experience, I would say.
Macintosh.
I feel like I can go back to those games every few years. I feel like because I played Obra Dinn 5 years ago or whatever, 4 years ago, and I feel like I can go back and I'll just forget shit. Same with Outer Wilds.
Yeah, I feel like I'd need to wait a few more years before I've forgotten more about Obra Dinn and forgotten enough of the puzzle solutions for it to be a challenge again.
Yeah.
Alex Armstrong is $2 and says, thoughts about MMORPG and city builder experiences. Not my cup of tea, but again, a completely different experience offered to the other examples mentioned previously.
And I feel like there's two different kinds of city builders. I mean, maybe that's why you use the word experiences, but there's city builders where there's like goals and resources and management, and you can fail or you could do better depending on your choices. And then there are city builders. There was that game like Town Scraper, I think, that are more of almost like art pieces, to where there's no resources, there's no failure. It's just make this cool building, make this cool city, shape the landscape, do whatever you want, and at the end you have a nice little thing to look at, and there's nothing to do. And so, yeah, I totally get where we do agree.
Now.
Yeah,
some
and I guess
reason.
that's the word. Cozy's being
Yeah,
attached to things.
cozy's
Like,
being attached to sort of like lack of consequences, lack of tension.
yeah,
So
Yeah. It's a low
put
stakes.
low stakes.
yeah.
RoboNob the Snob gives €10 and says, since he brought up Indica, the bucket part was meaningful. It ties to the story. Grabbing the rosary, same. The points ties to the ending. Can't say the same about the actions I took in Hellblade 2.
Listen,
Oh, now
Uh,
I'm getting a feeling you don't like Hellblade.
That seems to have come across, yes, and I'm sure he and I are very much in agreement.
it had cool moments. The first giant that felt very Hellblade 1.
No, I'm with you there. The fucking giant fights were fucking spectacular, but spectacle was all it really was.
Yeah, yeah. And then the cave thing with
Yeah,
the
yeah, there
sword.
was. There's
It had moments. It really did.
there's some strong imagery,
Yes.
certainly.
Um,
That's about all you could say for it. Also, it's not very long. Those are most of my two pros for Hellblade 2. Tsunami Dusha gives $20 and says nothing. But we'll take those $20. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tsunami.
Christian Law gives $4.99 and says, I consider What Remains of Edith Finch and Firewatch the best examples of experiences that still contain entertaining gameplay. Thoughts on those? I think I've said before, and I think Jack has said something similar. Firewatch is a lot more fun if you turn off the map marker that shows you exactly where you are.
Mhm.
Because it's
Sure.
quite possible to orient yourself based on landmarks, and then it becomes a sort of deduction game to a certain extent, and makes
that's
it a lot more fun for me. But by default, they leave on the map marker, and then you play through the game and didn't realize you could turn it off, and don't get the game at its best, in my view.
Yeah, the world design, the art design, the horizon design in that game is pretty spectacular in terms of exactly what Yahtzee just said of being able to orient yourself if you just pay attention. In the same way that Breath of the Wild has very specific horizons to kind of guide your eye to get you intrigued of what's going to be over that hill. And in Firewatch, you kind of lose that if you're just staring at the map and being like, well, I'm just going to follow exactly where to go.
Yeah,
It's such a fucking bummer to me that team got. I mean, good for them getting bought by Valve, making a shit ton of money, but just kind of got absorbed into the "we'll see you once a decade" machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Also,
just like to piss about and pay themselves lots of money at Valve.
Yeah, and they did they were leads on certain elements of Half-Life Alyx, but I feel like in another world, if they were still indie by now, we would have been on their fifth game.
Valve is like the Elysian Fields of indie gaming. It's like if you make the best indie games, you get to go to this paradise realm where you just piss about working on concept games forever, and then no one ever actually sees inside the walls, and nothing ever comes out again.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Blistered Soul gives £2 and says, "How do you define button that ruins everything?" Well, it was in concept a sort of spoof take on a clicker game or an idle game.
So satire.
Yeah, a satire of an idle game was my intention there. I hope that answers your question, Blistered Soul. Gildon Yittich gives $5. Yeah.
Look at what Eric's got me here.
Yeah, look at that. I'm not sure what that's for.
I don't know how he did it. I don't have a green screen. This is impressive.
I know. It's impressive. I think it's an AI thing. It's impressive that they can isolate things from backgrounds a lot more efficiently these days.
No, Eric using AI. How dare you? Taking someone's full-time job away.
Always gets the fingers wrong.
If you got like a new iPhone and you open up one of your pictures and you hold on your face and drag away, it uses AI to sort of isolate your face from the background, and it does it really well.
Whoa. Yeah, like VTubers, they use phones. They're not using fancy cameras. Phone technology is crazy. Anyway, off we go.
Anywho, Gildon Yittich gives $5. Says Jesse Shell's The Art of Game Design defines game design as experience crafting, but also that there's no periodic table of game elements.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Experience.
Yeah.
And then Gildon Yittich adds to that, saying not to misrepresent Shell, he also says the game is not the experience, it enables the experience, but it's not the experience. Page 11.
Yeah, it's like on a thing I was working on where I was saying every game tells two stories. It's the one it tells and then the one you feel. And that's sort of I guess where we're getting conflicted on the whole experience thing where People who felt moved by the graphics and the music, they want to feel validated. I'm not taking that away from them. It's just two different conversations.
No, and there's
I mean, for me, what's interesting about video games is that they use challenge to evoke emotions like satisfaction and relief, and in some cases, like to give you a greater emotional attachment to certain things. And that's something that no other medium can really explore. So it's a shame we'll just get distracted with just trying to do the same thing films do.
Yeah.
it's not like it's taking away from something else. It's not like we only get 100 games a year, and one of those slots was filled up by something that wanted to be a movie. Like,
Well, it kind of is taken away. It's taken away like the air out of the room, like publicity. It's taken away the time it took to work on that could have been spent being worked on an actual game.
it is a game. Hellblade is a game. It might be a bad game, but it is a game.
Or if they wanted to make a movie, they could have gone to Hollywood too. They almost feel resentful of themselves and the player.
Yeah, it's like I say, like some people say, why are you bothered by optional content? You could always just not play it. And my usual response to that is the fact that it's there means that something else isn't.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
my objection.
No one has to justify the things they make. I just don't have to like it. That's all I see it as.
Well, quite.
Absolutely. Also, really quick, Tungsten came back on Ko-Fi with another dono. Thank you so much, Tungsten. Oops, I marked the message as private. Here's another $5 for my question. What are y'all's thoughts on games without words, such as Hyper Light Drifter?
My favorite.
We might have done something else like a year or two ago.
I don't think we did non-communicative.
I do.
No,
I
sorry,
do
something
like,
back in the day before you.
Oh, slightly.
Yeah.
Refrost.
I very much enjoy a game that tells a story without words. Like the first example for that I can think of would be Out of This World, also known as Another World in the European regions. And just recently I was playing Sulaco, which doesn't really have much in the way of, live storytelling. There's a lot of like audio logs and like text logs and stuff to give you the background of the story. But you're never really told what you're doing or why you're doing it. You're sort of going along with your main character's unspoken objectives. And I found I kind of appreciated that as a game mechanic, as a storytelling mechanic. Like you just rock up at this facility, and then you get an objective saying plant explosives at the facility, and then you just have to infer why the main character wants to blow this facility up. And honestly, I was kind of appreciating that.
Yeah, when I a few weeks ago when I rewatched Mad Max Fury Road before Furiosa, I'm just continually gobsmacked at how Spartan that movie's screenplay is. Like there's just and like no backstory. It's just like fucking throw you in there and like you'll get it. And I don't know. It feels like a trust in the viewer that I really appreciate.
Yeah. The Proto-Lictor gives $10 and says, where on your scales to something like Her Storyland? Now, this is an area I think me and Marty rub up against each other a lot.
And apparently Frost, because he was hating on Immortality.
Like in a hot
way?
Sam Barlow's shit has never really worked for me. I mean, I know, like, it's very critically acclaimed. I just can't get over the fact that there's no real like traditional gameplay element to it. I prefer something like Not for Broadcast, in which there is a literal game mechanic attached to watching the videos. It at least gives me something to do.
Oh, don't feed the monkeys.
You as soon as you started talking about that, just torrential downpour and thunder and lightning and darkness happened outside my house, so I feel like my mood is just impacting the weather. No, I do agree, but I don't think that's what he's going for, right? If we're talking about like intention, I don't think he's going.
No, I get that. I get you're supposed to like make up the story inside your own head, like you're reading a book or something. But I just can't meet him not on this. Sorry.
Yeah. No. It's you don't need to apologize.
I need the game to pat me on the head and tell me I'm a good boy for figuring it out.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Her story. It's funny. Of the three, Her Story is the one that I felt like Her Story was like an interesting proof of concept, and then Telling Lies and especially Immortality, just really fucking spoke to me. And I think part of it is like I feel like her Immortality, and then even like Kojima stuff, I feel like is directly. I am at the center of the Venn diagram of the two things I love most, which are movies and video games, like merging in a really interesting way by someone who feels similarly. I always think is really exciting. And I always kind of get mad when people with Kojima are like, all he does is make movies. He just wants to make movies. Because I'm like, his games are some of the most playful games. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Even the games that have like fucking 90-minute cutscenes have some of the most interesting, weird, out there systems and mechanics.
Sure, yeah. I prefer. I want all the storytelling medias to play to their strengths, and I'm very much in the Yahtzee category of video games do this thing that others can't. So whenever they sort of abscond that and just try to do the movie thing or the book thing, I'm like, rubs me weird.
Will Cooling gives £2 and says, has Yachts watched Red Letter Media's video on the death of cinemas? Yes, I did. Doesn't really affect my life much.
Last movie he
Because
watched was Team Fortress 2.
Yes. Emesis Blue. It's good.
Thank
It's on
you.
YouTube.
What was the consensus? Movie theaters are dying?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's because you can't smoke in them anymore. Let me light up a little ciggy in the middle of the movie.
Speaking of experience, like that's the thing right now. I think cinema needs to lean into the experience of it all. Otherwise, it's one I can enjoy at my TV for a much cheaper price.
You want smell-o-vision? You want the thing with the rumbly seats?
Oh my god! I saw Top Gun Maverick in 4D, and it was like jostling my prostate. It was just the most intense experience. It was great.
It seems an awful lot of work to go to for something that doesn't really fundamentally change the cinema going experience.
I'm glad I did it once. I am never going to do it again. It was so distracting to the actual movie.
There you go.
I'll settle for Barbenheimer. Just events, experiences.
Feels like it did the same thing the motion controls of video games do. Just sort of kills my immersion because I'm just focusing on what the person playing the game, is doing, rather than what the person inside the game is doing.
That's just low self-esteem. You're self-conscious about looking weird. Just give in.
And yes, Sean Harriman, I'm so excited to do the Sphere/Orb in Vegas. I don't care what's showing on there. I want to go there. I'll go see fucking Grateful Dead. I don't care about Grateful Dead. Just put me in the Orb.
I'll fucking watch a David Attenborough documentary or something.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Fucking frog, 10 stories high.
Starstruck Vagabond on the Orb.
Ooh.
Oh, man. It would like the pixels are trying to kill you. Fox D gives $5 and says, if Outrun could build 15 different racing levels to get 5 different endings, we can make a proper branching path narrative adventure game. It's not quite the same thing, though, is it?
Lazy.
Well, it's lazy, but also it's difficult to justify the expense of making 15 different story threads when the player's only going to see one.
It's for me. But no, even I have tried to prototype something on paper, but really you get to a point where you're like, I'm making 15 games instead of just one. So yeah.
Did you play Slay the Princess, either of you?
I did, yeah.
What did you think about that?
Pretty cool, pretty fun.
Neat.
Pretty interesting.
Neat.
Yeah. Haven't really given it much thought since I finished it, but yeah.
Choose your own adventure thing. The big thing is just the uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice writing. They sort of said, you thought this was a standard rescue princess narrative, but it ain't. But it does, it's a limit to... There's a limit to how much you can...
You gotta slay that princess.
Elaborate on that, I suppose.
Well...
Alex Armstrong is $2. Says, bought mullet Mad Jack, per Yahtzee's thumbs up. GG. Yeah, speaking of games that feel like just sticking your head in a big amorphous ball of action for about 10 minutes. That's literally just walk into a room and shoot a guy over and over again, the game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got nice presentation. Very reminiscent of a certain genre of anime. When everything, fun enough, in the 80s, when everyone had really weirdly proportioned tits and
hair.
Green hair. Yeah.
Good old days.
Green mullets.
So is Mullet Mad Jack's like little bite-sized levels?
It's like no, you got
it's a roguelike with it's a room by room roguelike where you literally just it's like every level is like literally 30 seconds long.
It's crank.
Like you get
crank?
and you die
literally crank.
You literally die if you don't kill anything for 10 seconds.
Yeah, just like real life.
It's just a constant push forward, kind of like that. I'm never going to remember what the name of this game was.
Speed. You're talking about a game.
No, where you just have to push down a corridor the whole time and shoot things as they come up. And if you ever stop, you've pretty much fucked up.
Super Hot?
No, I don't know. Something. Squirtle Squad 420, member for 4 months in ad-free podcast, says, what is the opposite end of this debate? Something that's all game and no experience? Tetris, maybe? I
Yeah,
think
Pong.
Man, Tetris Effect gets that experience in.
the example for me would be popping bubble wrap. That's like all cathartic experience and no context.
This guy. But you love
No-
opening biscuit cans.
No context, no challenge, but it's undeniably fun to pop bubble wrap.
Is that just like a fidget spinner? A little bit?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
J Nobody gives $10. Says, if a game has little to no replay value because you've already experienced all the twists and turns it offers, then it's an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
You went somewhere with that. I don't know whose jar that goes in.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ash Finn gives $10. There's experiences feels more ephemeral to me than game. A game is something you might be able to come back to later or replay to still get some value out of it. Experiences might only happen the first time. Yeah, I think I'm with you on that, Ash Finn. As I say, it's like a theme park ride.
Especially life experiences. You don't think of experiences in life as a thing you can revisit whenever you want by opening up a program or, putting a disc in a thing. Like you think of experiences as like vacations or holidays, like as a kid. You know what I mean? Like you don't think of it as, I could just
Going
relive
tandem
this
skydiving.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been
Tandem.
I went tandem skydiving once. They had to pair me up with someone who was really skinny because I'm so huge.
I was about to say, did you get a tall enough instructor, or were you just looking like he was your baby?
Yeah,
My
like
little
they had.
Bjorn.
I had this really tall, skinny guy that I assume they keep around for people like me. And I've also been scuba diving, which was a lot more fun. I've done all the diving.
Did you see the internet cable down
Was
there?
that in Australia? Yeah, did you see the internet cable? Did you see any of those Japanese spider crabs?
No, I did it on honeymoon in Hawaii. So I didn't see a giant spider crab. I saw a sea turtle, though, and a couple of sea cucumbers.
Oh.
And various fishies. Fox D gives $5. Says, a periodic table of gaming elements would make for a great update to that classic Tom Lehrer song. Someone needs to make that. Maybe that could be my next project.
Yeah, but you're already
Are we still
mapping
getting
them.
new elements?
What would crate be an element for the periodic table of gaming?
Barrel.
One crate, explosive red barrel, health bar.
Ooh, I like this a lot. I like this idea. Yes. Just
And then you could define games based on chemical formulas.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I like that.
get on that.
That might be a much more
crates, one
scientific
gun.
way. It'd be much more scientific than fucking action adventure, wouldn't it?
That's
2-0.
good. That's good.
Okay, that's good. We got a slow summer coming up. We got some ideas to pocket.
Something to think about. Chef Roller gives $2 and says, you wouldn't make a movie that's 80% reading. But what about subtitled foreign films, Chef Roller?
Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh, good on you. What about Star Wars right at the start? And you ran out because you lied to me. It's a book.
Yeah. If you faint in the first 30 seconds of Star Wars, that's all reading.
I think the rule is if you start with an opening text crawl and you're not Star Wars, then you fucked up.
80% reading. Interesting.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and then says, thoughts on Suda 5-1, Swery, and Kojima experiences?
Oh no. Are we going to start calling all games experiences?
I think they're all games. I don't think any of those are like...
Yeah, those
like
are all games.
Yeah, those guys are
even
in terms
Killer
of, like,
7.
Yeah.
Killer 7 is definitely a game that's both a game and an experience, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean it's not like super mechanically rich, but
No,
I feel like
it's deeper than you might think. There's like unlockable upgrades that the game literally doesn't
and
tell
you
you
have to
about.
choose who you want to upgrade and use specific characters for puzzles. But I feel like the real things that blur the line are more in the indie space. I feel like in the AAA world, everything is pretty clear cut a game, even if it's not a good game, even if it's a Hellblade.
AAA could never.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is
that
I
would
think,
burn down like Sony, Nintendo, Xbox if they released a non-game experience game. Yeah, no.
I mean, I mean, it didn't used to be like that. I mean, Killer 7 was released as like a mainstream GameCube stroke PS2 release.
There was a big deal when after Katamari they allowed Keita Takahashi to make Nobi Nobi Boy. That was like a big front page of the PS3 kind of game. And
Now
then you
that was
played, like,
definitely
this.
an experience without being a game.
That was an experience that I did not enjoy. That's where my
Anyway.
line is of like, what the fuck is this thing? What are we doing? Let me
What
roll
was
up
his
more
next?
cities.
What was his next thing he did? I
He
think
did
I
that
reviewed it.
Watam.
That's the one. Watam.
Yeah.
I reviewed it once.
Yeah.
Very
Also-
weird game.
Also, you know what? I'm glad you're swinging for the fences, but man, do I like Katamari. What if we do more of those games?
I think I once said in my review of what Katamari feels like, sort of once in a lifetime cosmic event in which that creator and the concept of video games intersected before moving on, never to meet again.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say they died in a car crash.
They got rolled up by a intergalactic
Yeah.
ball.
Whoosh, right there. Yeah.
Well, that's all the super chats we had.
What a
Lovely.
good episode.
What fun we had. What a contentious debate.
We've settled nothing.
Well, that's the best kind of debate. So
No,
now-
not the agree to disagree weenies.
Now we can leave the comments to get mad about it while we get on with our lives.
There's
Oh,
another
one more super
for you.
chat just came in. Camden Ninja with $5 said, Narcosis is an experience with great storytelling that absolutely couldn't work as a game or film. If you're going to make an experience, then commit.
Yeah,
Okay.
put your whole ass into it.
There
Absolutely.
you go.
Oh, I remember Narcos.
Yes.
It's a little spook 'em up, a little first person spook 'em up.
Put your whole ass in it and then jiggle it about and maybe do a little Tommy squeaker to really put the signature on.
Well,
There you go.
hokey.
What's a tummy
No.
squeaker?
Yeah.
What?
Like I want them when they say,
What?
"Hey, can you make a movie about this game?" They take the biographical route, like Tetris. Like that's the kind of games I'm into. Because Hellblade, like, let's make a
Fucking-
movie about Hellblade. Easy. It's
Yeah, it's
already
Hellblade.
almost done.
You already did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Fucking brand movies. All right. Well, thanks for listening to yet another Windbreakers podcast starring me, Yahtzee, him, Frost, and him, Marty, and him, Toffee.
Yay, the dog.
What else could you look forward to this week? Well, you could always look forward to my fully Ramblematic episode on Hellblade 2, which will be coming out on Wednesday. And on the same day will be my Yahtzee Try stream, where I will play 2 new things. And then on Thursday, I've got a semi-Ramblematic dropping, my bi-weekly video essay series on tangential game-related topics. Hope you like that too. And if you're still around when Saturday comes around and haven't drunk yourself to death or anything, the first episode of the remastered Adventure is Nigh, the remastered pilot coming out this Saturday. Holy shit.
Happening. We're back. We're so back.
We are so back.
We're so back.
Yeah, that's me. What's everyone
Oh,
else
and
got?
there's gonna be a bonus Yahtzee stream tomorrow.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, I will be joining Nick to stream a couple of sponsored things that we're streaming tomorrow morning.
It'll be tomorrow at noon.
in this
So this time.
in this very time slot. Yes.
Yes. I believe Jamaica
the,
will be joining you too as well.
the contractual obligation stream. Can we say what games we're streaming on that?
Sure.
Well,
I'm opening it up. I'm opening it up because I couldn't remember the names. I had to ask for the art.
Find it.
The Operator and Linkito.
Oh, yes.
Games. One is called The Operator. One is called Linkito.
Quito is Mexican Zelda. Yeah.
Only one game popped up there. I don't know why. Well, the other game's
Ah.
also there.
I was about to say, wasn't that the alternative title for No One Lives Forever? But no, that was actually called The Operative No One Lives Forever.
Oh, that's a fun fact. I didn't know that.
Yeah, alternate title, when that was a thing.
Also, if you guys wanted to know, E3 2006 and 2007, big game was Heavenly Sword by the Hellblade developers. So there you go, full circle.
That was one of my very first zero punctuations was on the subject.
Yeah,
of-
we're in that era when we were rewatching it. Everyone was like, "I remember Yahtzee writing about this." You did a demo? Was it?
Yeah.
You did a review of a demo.
Yeah, I was still finding my feet. So for my very first episode, I reviewed the demo of Heavenly Sword.
Oh, there you go.
What? That was the darkness.
The darkness.
Now, that was pre-escapist. That was
Oh, that's
my
right. That was fully
original,
actually
fully Ramblematic.
fully. Yeah.
What else we got coming up this week?
We say it on the Cold Take front. Go watch the sequel to The Future of Gaming According to PlayStation. Now, The Future of Gaming According to Xbox. Not sure if I'm going to do the Nintendo thing. I'll see how I feel after watching Godzilla -1, as that just came out on Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And
I think the future of gaming, according to Nintendo, is just gaming again.
yeah,
All
like
of gaming
I
as
put
it
it in the
currently
end credits,
exists.
you know, like I put
Yeah.
that video in the end credits, and if that doesn't suffice, we'll see. But
That's pretty
I've got-
funny.
I've got another fish that's kind of in my eye line right now. I'm gonna hand that to Marty right as soon as we're done here. Marty, what else we got going on?
Cool. Later today, the Hidden Gems crew will be back playing Terror of Hemosaurus, which is like a rampage-like. So that'll be at the normal 6 p.m. Central Time. And then starting on Thursday, we're going to be doing live watch-along streams to the Summer Game Fest shenanigans. Thursday will be the Gorilla Collective, which is a bunch of cool indie games. Friday will be a biggie with Summer Game Fest Live and Devolver Digital and Day of the Devs. We'll have some indie ones on Sunday. We'll have Xbox on Saturday, Xbox on Sunday, and then Ubisoft on Monday. So we'll have a full schedule of that. But it shouldn't. It might impact some of the regular streams, but just you should be getting more streams than usual. So we'll let you know the exact timings of those soon.
Fun.
Lovely. We did
And
it.
just before we go, one last super chat from Pixel Grip gives $5. It says, "When is the fully emblematic of Starstruck Vagabond?" Never. I did cheekily do a segment on it in this week's Yahtzee Tries edited video, but anything more would be just a little too masturbatory, even for my tastes, I fear.
Oh.
Have you played Starstruck Vagabond? It's on Steam right now. Go buy.
It's so good.
Goodbye,
It's so
goodbye,
good.
goodbye.
What are you asking?
Bye.
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 Bye then.